Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and we're back with actor Noel Harrison. Actor-singer Noel Harrison is the son of Rex Harrison and Colette Thomas. Noel was born in London and brought up by his mother in what seems to be a very anti-MAME type of existence.
I never thought of it as anti-MAME, but I guess in a way it was.
It sounded like it.
It was more athletic than anti-MAME, because my mother liked to ski and things like that.
Oh, like that.
You know,
yeah. I see. I see.
It wasn't like big city sophistication.
Was she French?
No, she had French blood. And she had a lot of French attitudes and French appreciation of life.
Well, I want to go back and say that your career actually started in the 50s and 60s as a cabaret singer, and you were in fabulous clubs like the Hungry Eye in San Francisco, Mr. Kelly's in Chicago, and the Persian Room in the Plaza Hotel.
Yeah.
And then, as you started singing, were you singing your own work?
No, I never wrote a song until probably the late 60s. I wrote my first song.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, it just came to me out of the blue too.
Then when you were appearing at these places, whose work were you singing, and what kind of show did you have?
Well, you see, the first job I had really was, I was in theatre for a short while when I was 17, and then did my military service for 2 years. When I came out, I could play guitar a little bit, so I got a job playing and singing in a coffee bar in London, and gradually sort of graduated into cabaret. So basically my material was, I've always done French popular music.
That's why I asked if your mother was French, because your French is great. I heard you sing the other night in French, and you could have fooled me.
Yeah, well.
But you just studied it.
Well, I grew up loving the French language because of my mother, and when I first started listening to French music, it was Charles Trenet and Edith Piaf, and to me, having been brought up on sort of English Tin Pan Alley and American Tin Pan Alley, and at the same time having an education in literature and poetry, I always thought the English and American lyrics were rather lame and banal, and all of a sudden I started listening to Trenet and Piaf, and the poetry in the French songs was unsurpassed, and I just fell completely in love with it.
Don't you think that it's the accent and the pathos that they deliver it in? Are the words lame, the same as Tin Pan Alley?
No,
they're not.
No, they are. It is incredible poetry. I mean, I wish I could come up with a quick example for you. But you want to talk while I think?
Sure. Now I want to talk about where you were living at this time when you were doing all the cabaret.
Well, initially I was living in Europe, in Switzerland. My mother moved to Switzerland when I was 14, and I started doing cabaret, and I took my guitar and traveled around Europe. And then I went back to London, where I was born, to live, and there I did cabaret there for about 10 years.
Oh, you did? And then when you came to America?
So I was already an established cabaret performer, and I came here as a cabaret performer, and I played in New York, and as you said, the other various places, and I had a record in the top 40 at the time.
Did you actually want to be a singer or an actor?
No, I always liked singing and playing. I didn't.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, my little stint in the theatre when I was 17 kind of put me off acting. I didn't really like I didn't like it very much, and then I sort of fell into it again because of having the success with the cabaret and the top 40 record, and I was on the Johnny Carson show in 1964-5, and the producers of The Girl from U.N.C.L.E., which was the spin-off from The Man from U.N.C.L.E., this famous
that's what I was going to ask you, how you got into that, just by guest appearing on the show?
Yeah, on the Johnny Carson show, and I guess they're sitting at home and said, hey, that guy looks like the right guy. And
then what did you do on that show?
On The Girl from U.N.C.L.E.?
Just totally acting?
Yeah, I played.
So there you were.
You remember The Man from U.N.C.L.E.?
Yeah, Robert Vaughn.
I know you're scarcely old enough to remember
Robert
that
Vaughn and...
Robert Vaughn and David McCallum. Yeah.
David McCallum.
Yeah, and then Stephanie Powers was the girl from U.N.C.L.E., and I was the girl from U.N.C.L.E.'s sidekick, whose name was Mark Slate. I don't know, I had a lot of success. I ran for a season, you know, and I became a celebrity. And,
did they keep rerunning it?
Yeah, they did for a while, yeah.
Well, did you get to sing as the sidekick?
No, not at
singing.
all. No, that was one, and at the same time, because of the records, I had another top 40 record, and so I did all the variety shows. I was on the...
Because of the top record you had, what was it, Suzanne?
Yeah,
How does
A
that
Young
go?
Girl was the first one. You want me to sing? You told me not to bring my guitar.
Oh, I didn't want you to
Suzanne takes you down to a place near the river. You can hear the boats go by. You can stay the night beside her. That's poetry.
I got it.
Leonard Cohen.
I remember the song now
Yeah.
because I couldn't remember it. And then, what was the first one that was on the top?
A Young Girl, which was it was quite notorious because it was about this young 16-year-old girl who ran off with an artist and ended up dead. And the last line of the song was "dead," and it was a Charles Aznavour song, in fact.
Oh, so there you are, back to that haunting.
Well, I never left it. I
melodious.
never left it. I always sought the poetry in
But that's what
popular
made
music.
that's what made you, or maybe it made it easy for you because you loved it so much, and you succeeded. I mean, to have 3 top 40 tunes.
Yeah, because the Windmills of Your Mind, which was actually the most successful, which was the theme song on the Thomas Crown Affair, the original Thomas Crown
That was
Affair.
nominated in 1968 as
It won the
it
Academy Award for the
won
best song, yeah.
in 1968, and you
Yeah.
sang it.
Yeah.
Did you get to sing it on the award show?
No, I was making a movie in England, and the producer was a real jerk and wouldn't let me come back and do it. He wanted me to stay, you know, it would only taken a couple of days. On the other hand, given the way I was in those days, I probably would have sung wrong notes. And
No, if you sang it, how would you, like,
well, you get to do it over and over again in the studio.
say it,
right?
sing it, sing it, sing it.
Yes, a cappella
God.
singing. Round like a circle in a spiral, like a wheel within a wheel, never ending or beginning, on an ever spinning reel. Where is my guitar?
No, just the melody is
Yeah, it's a
so
beautiful
great.
melody,
And
yeah.
then I think you dropped out in the
I did.
70s. That was 1968. Here was the song that was played all over. Your voice, I mean, great voice on that. And you dropped out. Why did you drop out?
Because I couldn't. I'd lost my anonymity. I couldn't. I mean, because of not just from The Girl from U.N.C.L.E. and the songs, but I was on every single variety show. I was on every single talk show. You know, I was just hot property, and as they called it. And I didn't like. I like to look at people. I like to be anonymous. You know, and I couldn't do that anymore. So I just decided to go and do something else and go back to my musical career. And I ended up buying a farm in Nova Scotia and living there and playing folk festivals and, you know.
But you really hadn't given up, had you? You were still singing, you were doing bluegrass.
It wasn't a question of giving up being an artist or being a performer. It was a question of giving up celebrity.
Oh, I see.
Because that's what I became, a celebrity. And so people thought that I was merely making records because I'd been on a TV series, which was not true. There's still some people still think that.
You'd started that way.
I'd been a cabaret entertainer and musician for 12 years before I ever did.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
TV.
But then when
Yeah.
you were in Nova Scotia, you were still doing something for CBS. You kept your...
Well, no, CBC. That was Canadian
CBC.
Broadcasting Corporation. I did a show that I devised myself, which was a half-hour show about singers, musicians, and songwriters, and it was called Take Time. I was quite proud of it.
The other one, then by the 80s you were ready to come back and sing, and I know Travis Holder, who's a critic for one of our entertainment newspapers, said that your Jacques Brel review was one of the greatest things he had ever seen.
Well, he gave me the most wonderfully warm and generous review.
And how did you put that together?
Well, Jacques Brel was one of the people. I mean, I saw Jacques Brel when his career was just beginning to flower in the 60s, long before the show Jacques Brel is Alive and Well. And I loved his stuff the same way I loved all the French stuff. And then much later, when I thought I wanted to do a one-man show, I thought I would do it about him, and then I started to research his life and see what happened to him. And, you know, he died young. He died at 49.
No.
He retired at the peak of his career when he was 38. He'd stopped doing concerts because he said he didn't like being commercialized. And I identified so strongly, but he didn't like being a celebrity. So in that sense, he liked his music, and he felt it was being destroyed. And then he became an actor and directed a couple of movies, wrote a couple of movies, continued recording, then sailed away, sailed off around the world and ended up in the Marquesas and lived there, and got lung cancer and died at 49.
But then, what did you do when you did the review? Did you sing just his songs?
Yes, no. Yes, no. I sang his songs in the I sang his songs in the original French and Flemish, some of it, and I also sang a song that I had written, which was kind of about his life and my life, and I also sang a Hank Williams song.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You put that all together for this review? What was it
It's
called?
not a review, it's a one-man show.
Oh,
it was called Adieu Jacques, and it was about his life and death, and about his poetry. And
so what kind of Hank Williams song would you sing?
it was Lovesick Blues.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And
great.
it was just because I was relating his celebrity in France to Hank Williams' celebrity here, and it was a very
that's
similar kind of,
interesting.
yeah, you know, because it's Americans usually don't fully understand what kind of success Jacques Brel had and what he meant, what he still means to French people.
You still sing some of those songs, don't you?
Oh yeah,
The
yeah. I'm
Jacques
going to
Brel?
do the show again, in fact, in,
Oh, are
in
you?
September. Up
Oh,
in,
great.
Northern California.
You start, then it'll just start going everywhere.
No,
What?
it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't. It's a funny
doesn't
thing.
do that?
No, I've had the most incredible reviews. I've done it in London, Montreal, here, all over the country. Never draws a crowd. You know why, I think? Because what it sounds like is aging English actor sings songs in French by dead Belgian.
I don't think people know that. They have to hear the music. they can't say
But I mean
that.
because people here know Brel's work more from the review Jacques Brel is Alive and Well
Right.
than they do from Brel himself.
Did they
And
sing? They sang his songs.
They sang translations of his songs,
Right.
which are wonderful in their own right, but which are not.
And then when you sing them in French,
Yeah,
obviously.
because the translations most of the time don't completely do justice to, you know, it's very hard to translate French.
So in the 80s, you went back on the stage. You did Camelot, Man from La Mancha, My Fair Lady.
Oh yeah, but I was doing that all along.
Were you
And,
doing it all along?
Yeah, I mean, like once a year or so, I would get one of those shows to do, and that would make me enough money to be a singer for the rest of the year.
But to play Professor Higgins, your father's role,
Yeah.
did you feel it was a
Daunted?
daunting?
I should say. the first time I did it, and it was in a dinner theatre, a big dinner theatre outside Boston, and it was almost 30 years ago now. And my father, you know, I asked my father what he thought. I said, I've been offered this job. I just had these twins that were just a couple of weeks old.
have
I needed
twins?
the money. Yeah.
I have
Do you?
twins
Do
too,
you?
yes.
Mine are a boy and a girl. Are yours?
Mine are twins, identical girls.
Oh my.
So what did your dad say?
He said, "Why not? Everybody else is doing it."
Oh, so why shouldn't...
You know, I mean, that.
But what
he's-
about
he
the
wasn't-
critics? Did they compare you? Did they...
Of course, yeah.
Did they bug you?
No, they were usually they were always quite nice to me, even from the beginning. And I've probably done 20 productions of it over the 30 years.
Oh, you have done a lot.
Yeah.
And then the other roles, your father didn't play in any of those other roles,
No,
did he?
no,
So you just created, you
Yeah,
sang...
I mean, I did My Fair Lady because I got offered a lot of money to do it, and I needed the money because I had these kids. you know.
Yes.
So, I love Camelot. I love playing Arthur in Camelot. That's probably my favorite role, except maybe Don Quixote, Cervantes, and Man of La Mancha. That's
Love
pretty
that.
wonderful.
Love those all.
Yeah.
But you've been acting again. You were in a Jagla movie, Deja Vu,
Yeah.
which I saw, and
Yeah.
I interviewed that girl, the French girl who was in it, and Henry at one time. So
Yeah.
that keeps you back on the screen, little
Yeah.
independent movies.
Absolutely, yes. I did another little independent movie called China Basin, directed by a friend of mine called Norman Gerard, and that was in this little Santa Monica, the Santa Monica Film Festival last year, and they said, "But we can't consider it for an award because it's got a star in it."
Oh.
I said, "Give me a break. I mean, where's
I
my
love it.
star salary?"
I love
And-
it. I have
yeah.
the star here, but my star the other night Noel Harrison, said, "I'm going to be a troubadour again. The troubadour is coming out in me."
Yeah.
Is that
yeah,
you?
Absolutely,
That's it?
Absolutely. The troubadour and the writer. And, you know, acting jobs, I'll take them. But
Well, we're glad you were with us. And I'm sorry I didn't let you bring your guitar, but we heard your voice anyway.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being with us today, Noel.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you for being with us on the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to us at 777 South Figueroa, 40th floor, and we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.